Tori, and this is Peppy, and today we are going to be reviewing Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. Or at least I'm going to be reviewing it. Peppy may choose to sleep most of the time. So this is a poetry collection written by T.S. Eliot and published in 1939. And my copy has illustrations that were done by Edward Gorey in 1982. So this is just a little poetry collection that has poems about all different cats, and it is actually what the Broadway show Cats is based on. And that show is being turned into a movie, so I was very curious to read this and see what the original source material was like. This book is so zany and fun. Each little poem is just 2 or 3 pages long. It begins with the naming of cats, and you learn T.S. Eliot's theory on how cats should be named, and they all have these long, complicated, formal names that he explains to you, so then in the later poems, when you hear about them, they make perfect sense. And then toward the end of the collection, there's a section on how to properly address a cat so that it feels respected by you. All the other little poems are just introductions to different cats, and you learn all about them and all about their different personalities. It's really fun. Every poem kind of has a different meter or different feel to it, and I can see why Andrew Lloyd Webber thought that would be fun to adapt into a musical, because they're all so creative and unique. And I felt like the illustrations in my edition added a lot to the story. Because the poems were so full of life, it was really fun to see these drawings too that just had so much personality, and just really brought out the personality of the cats on the page. This book is definitely a product of its time. There's one really racist cat, so that poem was interesting, but mostly these poems were just really unique and fun. There was one poem called The Song of the Jellicles, which was the only one that I recognized from the Broadway show. I like the soundtrack to Cats, and I listen to, people do their own versions of the songs from Cats all the time, so I've heard lots of different ones, but I'm not a huge fan. I don't sit down and listen to the whole soundtrack in one sitting. I've seen the filmed version of the 1980s show, but that was a long time ago, and I was not a fan. And I actually do want to watch that again before I see the new movie that's coming out, just to compare it to this, and maybe now that I've read the poetry collection, I'll recognize more of the poems in the songs. So I think my favorite thing about this book was how much personality all the cats had, and T.S. Eliot clearly spent a lot of time with cats. There were some very sweet cats, some very vain cats, some very selfish cats, some very theatrical cats, and seeing all these cats in their little top hats and spats and all the different outfits they wore and all the different shenanigans they got up to was just so much fun, and this was just such a love letter to cats everywhere. Peppy was less impressed with the book than I was. Mostly she thought that my hands should be busy petting her and not holding a book. But she definitely appreciated all the personality of the cats because she has a very strong personality as well, so she could relate to a lot of people. This collection was just so darling and charming and quirky, and I would highly recommend it to any cat lover or anyone who has spent time with cats.